Hi, we just ordered Breakfast at Tiffany's starring my favorite actress Audrey Hepburn. All we had to do was go to the website at wherehollywoodhides.com and click on the Amazon banner. And 2 days later, we got the DVD. I'm so happy, and you will be too when you shop at Amazon through wherehollywoodhides.com. It's time for Where Hollywood Hides. Here's Bob and Suzanne.
Chicken joke! I'm Mrs. Cleaver.
From Television City in Hollywood.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller plays.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. Nanu.
Baby, you're the great.
Here comes the judge.
More cowbell.
Not special.
There's anything wrong with that?
And now for something completely different.
There's no business like
Welcome to Where Hollywood Hides.
business
This is
like
Bob McCullough.
And this is Suzanne Herrera-McCullough.
This is our 27th podcast. Can you believe it?
It's been fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Happy Grandparents' Day, Bob.
Well, thank you. Same to you.
Thank you very much.
We've had a great Grandparents' Day with both the kids, and it's been a spectacular day up here in Santa Barbara. Just before we get started today, I want to remind everybody, please go to the website at wherehollywoodhides.com, where you will find all kinds of fantastic sponsor links to Wolfgang's Vault, 1-800-Flowers.com, as well as all of our links to Amazon.com products. Anytime you shop at Amazon through our website, it helps support the podcast, and obviously we appreciate that. Also, if you have a chance, please go to iTunes/Where Hollywood Hides and give us a 5-star rating or even a few words of review. It really does help get the word out.
I just ordered a DVD, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, Audrey Hepburn.
Yes.
And why Audrey Hepburn?
Well, because it happens to be a family favorite, and my granddaughter's going to be Audrey Hepburn for Halloween.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So we're going to pick the outfits.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Is she going to wear high heels and
I'm
everything?
not sure.
All
She's
right.
a little young.
So for episode 27, before I start, I just want to make a quick website note at wherehollywoodhides.com. You know, we get a lot of stuff sent to us from people, including books that I take the time to read, particularly when I'm interested in the topic.
Some of the books are really good.
One of them is The Essential Elizabeth Montgomery, written by this guy, Herbie Pilato, Pilato, who sent me this book some time ago, and it is the definitive book about Elizabeth Montgomery. If there's anything you want to know about Liz Montgomery or Bewitched, you got to pick up this book, The Essential Liz Montgomery. It's on our website on the Best Buys tab, and you'll get really good pricing and amazing service.
I really wanted to look like her.
And
I wanted her powers as well.
Hello, you're a brunette.
I know.
Okay. Anyway, if you're interested in Liz Montgomery and the history of some of that classic television, check out Herbie's book. It's on our website in the Best Buys tab. Really recommend it. I read the thing from cover to cover. Couldn't believe all the information in there. We also want to talk about another book, don't we?
A very special book to us.
Yes. Where Hollywood Hides, Santa Barbara.
I'm a little overwhelmed by the orders.
It's been terrific.
So much so that we had to put in another order. So we're very excited. And this is our very first book that we have published. And there's another one in the works. Excited.
We're not going to share the title of that one yet.
No, very excited to be a published author.
But if you're interested in a full-color, hardcover, fabulous gift book, a real souvenir of Santa Barbara, a real talisman of the celebrity world, just go to our website at wherehollywoodhides.com. If you buy it through the website, you get a 20% discount, or you can go to Amazon or any of your local bookstores. Barnes & Noble, they'll all have that. Today we're featuring a great interview with a longtime friend of mine, Dennis Brown, whom I met at Paramount way kind of back in the beginning. Dennis has had really an amazing career. He's supervised multiple Academy Award and Emmy Award-winning projects. He's shot movies on every continent on the planet. And he's worked with people like Jerry Seinfeld and Lindsay Wagner, Farrah Fawcett, Liza Minelli, Tom Selleck, Burt Lancaster, Peter Fonda, that just a long list of people. And at one point during the interview, you will hear Dennis describe the one actor who remains close to his heart, his favorite.
They always have a favorite.
Right.
Which is great.
So it's a great interview. Dennis really does open up emotionally, and I think everybody will get an awful lot out of this one. So here's our interview with Dennis Brown. Dennis Brown, thanks very much for doing this podcast with us.
Well, you're quite welcome. I'm honored to be on. I've been following all the podcasts, and they've been terrific, and glad that you are including me.
Well, Suzanne and I have talked to a lot of people in the industry, and you have an august career as a producer and production guy. Let's just start at the very beginning. Tell me, what earliest possible age did you ever think you were going to wind up in show business?
Well, when I was in school, high school, I played sports, and I was never good enough to play. I knew I was never good enough to play at the next level, so what I decided I wanted to do was become a sports broadcaster.
What was your favorite sport when you were young to play?
Well, in my high school, which had 69 students in my graduating class, a
That's
town
a
of 2,000.
real big class.
Wait, let's go back in time. Where'd you go to high school?
It was in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, which is outside of Philadelphia, near Valley Forge, a small town.
So I guess we can presume your parents were not in show business?
No, not at all, and no one in the town or at all. No, not at all. My dad was a traveling salesman.
And you lived in kind of an Ozzie and Harriet household?
Exactly, very conservative, very Republican, very family orientated. It was quite wonderful. Very white bread. Yeah, it was terrific.
Sounds fun. Sounds good.
Brothers and sisters?
An older brother.
All right. So you're in high school, and what are you playing? What's your sport?
We only had baseball, basketball, and football, so I played all three.
Wow, you were a real jock.
Well, with only what 30 boys in your graduating class, something like that.
Exactly. So we had to play even if we weren't very good at it.
Okay.
So I knowing I want to become a sports broadcaster, I applied to two colleges that specialized in it. One was USC, University of Southern California, and Syracuse in upstate New York. And fortunate to be accepted to both. And my parents said to me, why don't you stay closer to home instead of going out to Los Angeles? Why don't you go to Syracuse and stay closer to home? And I think they thought I would stay close to home the rest of my life. But
right.
Actually, a month after I graduated from Syracuse, I was in Los Angeles, never to return.
So how did you make that? I mean, so broadcasting was in L.A. and New York. How come you didn't go to New York?
Well, I thought about it because what I decided once I was at Syracuse, that I really didn't have the affinity for sports broadcasting, and I really liked the production end of the business. I had, the good math and organizational skills, and that's where I gravitated into that. And so knowing that I wanted the production end of the business, it was New York at that time was just theater, much more theater orientated. I guess it still is today. And Los Angeles was much more the film production end.
Have you had you been to Los Angeles prior to that?
Well, I had not. Between my junior and senior year at Syracuse, I came to Los Angeles to spend a couple months. So I did decide I'd like it in Los Angeles, and upon graduation, I came to Hollywood.
Did you have a place to live? Did you? I mean,
no. What I did is my father, being a salesman, he dealt with people in the advertising business. So he had a contact back in New York that set me up with interviews out in Los Angeles upon graduation. So I came out for a week and a half and had some interviews. And one of the interviews was with Grant Tinker, who at the time was the head of NBC.
Yeah, you couldn't get any bigger than that.
That was a big deal.
Exactly. Yep, and married to Mary Tyler Moore. So that was one of the interviews. So I had the interviews. I went home to Collegeville, Pennsylvania, and waited for the phone to ring. And
there's a real career plan, right?
Yeah, and actually it did. And four weeks later, I drove across country to Burbank, and I started as a page at NBC.
So Grant Tinker hired you on the guest relations staff.
Exactly. He actually told the head of the guest relations staff to hire me. He of course, didn't. Yeah.
Were you thrilled? Were you disappointed? Did you have bigger aspirations?
Could not have been more thrilled.
Because at least you were inside. You were in the door.
And I loved NBC. And at that time, I thought I wanted what I in my mind called live television, which was quiz shows and talk shows, and those kinds of things, which is what NBC was doing. And because we had a paid staff of about 15 fellows, all fellows at that time, no gals, and I knew no one out here, so instantly I had 15 best friends. And I took an apartment that was walking distance from NBC, and it became the hangout. So it was a terrific time. I loved it.
And then Grant Tinker subsequently left NBC. How did that work out for you?
Well, once I got to NBC, I had very little connection with Grant Tinker. It was, walk in his office and say, "Thanks for making it happen," kind of a thing. That was all.
Right.
So he just opened the door. But,
so he even then had an eye for talent. Right.
Well, he had an eye for more than talent, because he was married to Mary Tyler Moore too. So.
Right. And then they went on to MTM Productions.
Now, Bob, weren't you a page at NBC? Did you and Dennis know each other?
Dennis, I think he must have been there just the year before I got there.
Yeah, I was there in '66 and left in early '67. I wasn't there. I was there, and actually, 3 months of it was interrupted by active duty for the National Guard. So in all, was only there about 4 or 5 months.
So how did you capitalize on that position? Because ushering people into quiz shows is not exactly training ground for much, other than showing up on time.
Exactly. Well, what happened there, I realized that I didn't want live television, as I called it, but wanted film television, film production, not live production.
And what was the distinction in your mind? I mean, what made you prefer one over the other?
Well, because live TV, the quiz shows, the talk shows were not exciting to me. It was set up the cameras and shoot. It didn't have the business side of it, like I saw, where the development and the preparation and the production side. And there was more opportunity in film production, I thought, than there was in again, what I call live production.
And so what do you, so as an usher, really, a glorified usher at NBC, how do you make that move?
Well, a fellow page, a mutual friend of ours, Alan Godfrey, had landed a job on Mission Impossible at Desilu Productions. He and I were pages, but he left to take a job at Desilu.
Right.
So he knew of my interest in film production, so he called me and said there was a position available at Desilu, and I ended up taking a position as a clerk in the construction office.
Oh, really?
Over there, yep, because I wanted to get my foot in the door. And so
I can't picture you with a tool belt.
Well, I was a clerk. Believe me, I'm not handy at all. So I avoided all the tool belts. But I was in that dirty construction office, and I was the only one in the department to wear a coat and tie. I was the low man on the totem pole, but I was an ambitious young fellow and wanted to be noticed.
Did the coat and tie help?
It helped me get noticed, because it was, very silly for this low man on a totem pole in the construction office with sawdust on his shoulders wearing a coat and tie. But
you always have struck me as a very kind of, very good posture.
I thought you were going to say debonair.
That too. Everything but the carnation and the lapel. Right. So what are you doing in the construction office at Paramount?
Well, what I'm doing is learning. Every day I went to at least one set to observe and learn how things were done. Stand in the background, make sure I didn't make any noise. So I got my foot in the door. And not long after being there was a position that became available in the television budget and cost control department. I applied for it, and it came down to two people. One of the other fellow had more experience than I had, but because I had a college degree and he did not, I got the job.
You had the coat and tie, let's face it.
I had the coat and tie and the college degree, yeah. So I ended up working in the budget and cost control department.
So for people who aren't familiar with that, what exactly does that mean? What do you do in that department?
There were 3 or 4 of us in the department, and we were each assigned 1 or 2 or 3 productions that were being done at the studio. And the studio did, Mannix and Star Trek and Gomer Pyle and Hogan's Heroes and The Lucy Show. And actually the show that I was assigned was The Lucy Show. So the very first show I ever worked on was The Lucy Show. This is long after she and Desi had split apart. But I did the budgets for the shows and then tracked the cost and worked very closely with the production manager of the show.
Did you have an accounting background?
No, but I was good with numbers. My minor in college was math.
Ah, okay. So did you have any contact with Lucille Ball?
Well, a little bit, not much. Lucille Ball was a very smart, very bright, very hardworking gal, and not the kind of gal you'd want to live with. So I had minor contact with her. Her two kids were on the show at that time, so I had a little bit of contact with what we call Little Lucy and Tessie. It was great fun, though, being involved in the show and going to the tapings and everything.
Yeah, so you went from the construction department to really like the big time, working with Lucille Ball.
I guess you could say that the big time, but
it's a huge leap, isn't it?
It actually probably was. I'm not sure I would say huge. It was a pretty good leap because I really didn't have much experience to lead me into that. You know, again, the coat and tie and the college degree did it, but it ended up being what I think is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, to have that job, that position, because what I decided in that position is that what I wanted to become was the head of physical production for television, who in essence was my boss's boss. And I decided I wanted a staff position, not a freelance position, because I thought there'd be more security in a staff position. I didn't always want to be looking for my next job, which is what the freelance world is. And because I knew what my end goal was, what I wanted it to be, the head of physical production, every career decision I made from then on was with that in mind. So every job, every position I pursued and every job I took was with that end goal in mind.
So you're going far afield from being a sports broadcaster. What made you think about, I mean, that's a real management career path, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what made you set aside your creative ambitions? You were talking earlier about working with story, and you thought that live TV was a little bit too standardized, but management, my gosh, that's really behind the scenes.
It is, and it was two reasons. One is because it was staff and not freelance, and I didn't want freelance. And the other is I quickly realized that I really did not have creative chops, that it really was much more on the business side. I was not somebody that was going to be able to write and develop projects.
All you had to do was let your hair grow.
I wish I could do that now.
So did you stay at Desilu Paramount?
I stayed at Desilu, and actually the best thing that happened while working at Desilu is I met my future wife, who was a receptionist at the little studio over on Cahuenga Boulevard. So we met each other there, and we were the darlings of the lot and fell in love and got married on the second month of our first date.
So you're a typical Hollywood guy poaching the girls in the business.
So wait a minute, let me get this straight. You only knew each other for 2 months?
We knew each other for 2 months, we dated for 2 months, and we got married.
That's a man of decision.
That was love at first sight, I think, huh?
Maybe that marriage was just a career move, part of Dennis's plan to stay on staff,
I don't know. Career move maybe for Bobby. I don't know.
So I met you about that time, didn't I? You were on the...
Exactly, because what happened is Paramount and Desilu, the two lots were contiguous. Paramount bought Desilu. They knocked down the fence in between, so I ended up working for Paramount. And that's where you were working as a location manager, and I was a production estimator on a series called Longstreet.
I remember it well.
Their first one.
James Franciscus and Bruce Lee and Marlon Mason.
Yep, and Joel Rogerson, and that's where we started hanging out together.
You and I kind of lost touch after that.
Well, I was there probably 4 or 5 years. You went off on a writing career. I ended up continuing there for a while, but then went on to work for a number of companies.
What prompted your leaving Paramount? Because you kind of indicated that you really wanted the security of that staff position.
Two things. Really, is the next level was not opening up. And at my next company, I thought there'd be more opportunities. And the next company was Quinn Martin Productions, QM Productions, which did Barnaby Jones and Streets of San Francisco and Cannon and that. So they were quite active in production at that time. So I thought there'd be more opportunity for me.
Did you send out resumes? How'd that come about?
Every job that I got was because somebody at that company I had worked with before, and they opened the door for me. It's the same thing when Alan Godfrey did it for me at Desilu. It was the same thing at QM and every other job from them, because it was somebody that I had worked with, and they knew of my ambitions and desires, and I kept in contact with them, and they opened the door for me.
So networking and people you know.
Exactly. Yep. Despite the industry being such a high profile, I quickly found out that it is really relatively small, and you gain a reputation quite quickly, good or bad.
And now you're at Quinn Martin. Are you doing the same job?
The same kind of job, yes, on a series called The Manhunter, which short-lived. Ken Howard, who's now the head of SAG, was the lead in it.
Specifically, when you are in the production budget control area of a film or television production, are you looking at the budget before they shoot or after it shoots? What exactly are you doing? I
help prepare the budget. I sit down with the production manager before each episode is shot, or even before the season begins, and in conjunction with the production manager, would tell me what he saw as far as the number of days, the kind of staff that he thought would be required, etc. And so I would prepare what is called a pattern budget for a series. And so that's done before the series begins, and it's projection of what each episode would cost. And then for each episode, I would prepare a budget that would be unique to that episode. It would have different actors or different sets or different wardrobe, different costs. So I would then prepare an episodic budget which had to follow and be no more than the pattern budget. And then I would track those costs for each episode and for the entire series.
And how does a guy from Collegeville, Pennsylvania, come to know what anything costs in the business? I mean, if a show calls for 2 car wrecks, do you know how much each car wreck costs?
I would know. If I didn't know, I would go to the departments that would know. And with all the department heads, I would not know, as an example, what the wardrobe was going to cost. So I would go to the head of the wardrobe department for that particular production, and he or she would present a budget. So each department would present a budget at the beginning of the series, and then they would prepare a budget for each episode. So would use their expertise in their particular area, whether it was wardrobe or construction or the art department. And then I would track the cost for them and let them know how they were, how their spend would be compared to their budget.
So you were dealing with a lot of people at the same time.
Yeah, and that was part of what I enjoyed, of course, because I got to know a little bit about every department because I had to in that position.
So how long were you at Quinn Martin?
Well, what I did after Desilu and Paramount, I worked at 9 different companies, and I changed jobs every 2 or 3 years, and the reason that I did is because each position was a step up the ladder for me. And I quickly realized that the opportunity was what I was looking for, not the money. And I even, at one point, took one job that paid less money than the job I was leaving, but it provided me what I thought was more opportunity.
It almost sounds like kind of a corporate career path.
Well, it was corporate, but it's funny you say that. It was not within one organization. And my father, who in his 50-plus career worked for 2 companies, I would call him every 2 or 3 years and say, well, I'm leaving Quinn Martin Productions. I'm now working for MPC. And he thought that I couldn't hold a job. He didn't understand.
Every parent's nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't understand why I was, but that's how I climbed the ladder. Instead of staying with one organization, I climbed it by jumping from organization to organization. So I worked for companies called MPC Productions, and then I worked for an infamous company called American International Productions, AIP.
Oh, yes.
Sam Arkoff, and did biker and beach movies, and it was quite an experience. And
please tell me you didn't wear the coat and tie on the set of biker movies.
No, actually, by the time I got there, the biker and beach movies were behind them.
Okay. All this early career stuff is, just for our listeners who aren't aware, there's a real dichotomy in the business between people who are so-called above the line and people who are below the line. So all of this work in this early part of your career is what we would call below the line, right?
Exactly.
And how does the transition? It's a real big step to move above the line. How did that happen for you?
While at Desilu, I realized that I wanted to become the head of production at a studio. So I was at a company called EMI Films, a British-based company, and the fellow that was the head of production left, and I was promoted into his position. And so that's where I achieved my career goal.
That's real senior management.
That's real senior management. Yeah, what I did, people would ask me, well, what do you do in the job? And the way I would explain it is my boss would open the door to my office. He or she would throw a script at me and say, go get this made. So I hired the key players. I determined the budget. I just decided where it was going to be shot.
When was the first time that happened to you? That must have been thrilling.
Well, I was at as I say, I was at a company called EMI Films, and I think probably the first project that I did that on was Jazz Singer, not the original.
Right.
The remake with Neil Diamond.
So they walk in your office, they hand you the script for the Jazz Singer. I presume Neil Diamond's already been cast.
Yes.
And weren't you terrified?
But I was both terrified and thrilled. One reason I was thrilled is because I'm the biggest Neil Diamond fan in the history of the world. We attended the Hot August Night concert at the Greek Theater. We were there.
You know, Barbra Streisand many years ago was quoted as saying that she felt that Neil Diamond was the greatest male singer she has ever sang with.
He certainly is a live performer. I think he's the best. So I'd heard about this project before I was with the company. I said, somehow when this movie gets done, I want to be involved. I don't care what it takes. I'll quit my job. I'll do it. So just by coincidence, it happened to take place at the company where I was. So I was the head of production on that and decided where it was going to be shot, which is both New York and Los Angeles.
Did the company tell you what your budgetary limitations were? They must have said something.
There was a range that was given, and I would prepare, the people that were working for me would prepare the budget. You know, I'd go back and forth a bit with senior management saying, well, we don't have that much. You have to take out X amount of money. It has to be done for that. And we'd go back and forth.
Presumably a big piece of that change went to Neil Diamond.
Yes. I don't remember how much it was, but he did.
I mean, because without him, there was no project.
And actually, Little Lucy was in it. I was back with Little Lucy again.
In that very first project over which you had complete control, did you select the director
He did not select the director. What I would do is I would vent the director. In other words, the name, the director candidates, I would come up with some, the management would come up with some, producer would come up with some, and I would vet them, and I'd say, this is a good choice, and this is why, this is not a good choice. So if I didn't know them, I would find out about them. And I would, could say something like, this person is very creative and terrific, but isn't very production savvy, so the chances of going over budget are pretty extreme.
These are kind of star chamber proceedings, I suppose, going back and forth with agents and management people.
Say what happened on Jazz Singer, we ended up changing directors during the shoot, so not a pleasant experience.
No, that's always difficult, So while you were at EMI, wasn't Deer Hunter done at that time?
Deer Hunter, I had joined the company just as Deer Hunter had finished production, and so I had somewhat of an involvement in post-production only, but not in the production side of it.
My guess is they were bleeding from the ears financially at that point, not knowing what they had.
Well, yes, but it turned out to be the biggest feather in their cap.
Yeah, but nobody knows that until the audience shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
You finished the Neil Diamond project.
And then the EMI Films was going through transitions. They were bought by, it was a British company, and they were bought out, and so they were no longer going to exist. So I found another position, and changing jobs again. I went to work for United Artists, UA.
Now they weren't at that time. It seems like you stepped into some difficult situations. United Artists had done Heaven's Gate.
My first week at UA, the director, Michael Cimino, presented his director's cut of Heaven's Gate to the studio, and I'll never forget being in the screening of the director's cut, which went over 4 hours long. And
was there a bathroom break?
No. After the screening, I think there were probably 8 or 10 of us in the screening room. Not one person said a word to it. The director, Michael, was not in the screening, but it was an experience that I will never forget. You can't describe the feeling.
So that I would presume the feeling would be blood coming out of people's forehead pores, because everybody's job was on the line at that point. Anybody who'd been involved with the picture's got to realize that they're in real trouble.
Yes, exactly.
And you're the new guy. And you're the new guy who can walk in with fresh eyes and say, "Gee, too bad I wasn't here earlier."
So when you saw the film, did you really think at the time it was that bad?
Well, yeah, it was unwatchable in the 4-hour length. It ended up being, I think the cut that was distributed was something over 2 hours. So what we and everybody else in the room thought is how can this be salvaged? What has to be done in order to salvage the film? So, there was a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of work and angst and everything, because Michael liked his cut and wanted to keep it at that length, and the studio did not.
Based upon that fairly early and fairly dramatic experience, how would you advise a director today who has a real artistic vision? How would you advise that person to be dealing with the financial powers that be? Because it's a difficult tightrope, isn't it?
It's difficult on both sides. It's difficult for those of us on the production side and those on the creative side. It's difficult to do a balance. I always said the most difficult part of my job was to balance the financial and creative aspects of a production. Well, the director has to do the same thing, except it's to him the creative is the first word and financial is the second word. Director, I think, really needs to know what he wants, what kind of film he wants, and how he's going to achieve that, and hopefully has the experience to do that, and then surround himself and trust the people that are around him. And it's the same thing for our production people, is we have to trust these directors. And I always kind of prided myself in being able to say no to a director without saying no. And so it's those kinds of things. Gee, that's a terrific idea, Mr. or Mrs. Director, but if you do that, how about if we do this over here to offset the cost of it? Those kinds of things.
In your experience, tell me the name of the director you think best handled that.
Well, the story I'll tell, and Jimmy Hawkins, who was on did a podcast for you recently, mentioned this fella, Marvin Chomsky.
Right.
Marvin Chomsky, I worked with on television movies. He knew exactly what he wanted, what the film that he wanted, and how to achieve it. What he would do, for an example, on a tech scout, which is before we start shooting, all the department heads go out with the director, and the director tells what he wants for each location. So he would go out to each location, and he said, "I'm going to put the camera here. You can put the catering over there. You can put the circus over here." He, on the day, would never change. He would, where he said he was going to put the camera, he would put the camera.
So he was sensitive to the cost problems that occur when directors start changing their mind in the middle of a day.
He was wonderful. The first of every project I worked with him, the first setup he did on a show was a print, and he would say, "Print, let's move on," every single time. And the reason he did that, even though he wasn't going to use that take, is he wanted the cast and crew to know that they had to be ready first time every time. So he was setting the mood, so you knew you didn't have a take two, necessarily a take two or take three, to correct everything. You had to be ready on take one.
Crafty guy.
Oh boy, what was he ever? And the other thing he used to do is before a take, the AD, assistant director, would say roll sound, and before he said action, what he would do is be giving instructions to the editor. Say, "Bill, I want to use just the start in the end of this master, cut in on the second line, action." So when the editor would get the dailies, he would hear that on the dailies before the action is called, so he would know what Marvin wanted.
Great idea.
Brilliant. I've never heard anybody do that. That's a great thing.
And one, it was two reasons. One, he knew what he wanted, but also he did not want the studio or the network to be able to recut the film. So there was a fellow that he really knew what he wanted, and he had the experience to achieve it.
So you're at United Artists. They're recovering from Heaven's Gate, kind of.
working on projects, and I worked for. Then I got more after UA. Then I had a feeling beforehand that I really had an affinity for television more than the theatrical films.
Why is that?
Well, I particularly like the television movies because the television movies are a producer's medium. The economics on them are so tough that it really is a producer's medium as opposed to a feature film, which is much more a director's medium. So I felt more satisfied, I had more involvement in the television movies, particularly television series to some degree, but particularly television movies. So that's why the next jobs that I took after UA were all television companies. ITC Productions and ABC Pictures and NBC Productions. I actually went back to NBC 25 years and 1 month after I started as a page. I returned as a vice president, head of production for them.
Upon that return and your work at ABC and Sony, you were there as a television executive, right?
The head of production, the same, they throw the script at me, go see that this gets made. On each production, I would have day-to-day involvement with the producer, the line producer, and the production manager.
Were you there under the Tartikoff regime?
Well, that was one of the main reasons I joined NBC's because Brandon Tartikoff was there. He had a wonderful reputation, and I wanted and everybody that worked for him just loved him. And I said that's where I want to be. Coincidentally, literally a week after I joined the company, he left and went to go work at Paramount. So I was only there. We only overlapped a week, but it was a fine week.
That's show business for you, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
Let me ask you, during all these career moves, did you have an agent?
No, I never had an agent. I had an attorney that would negotiate my agreement. But I never had an agent because certainly later in my career, I knew more people than any agent would know. And as I say, the jobs that I got were because I'd worked with someone before, and they were now at this company, and they opened the door for me. So no, I never had an agent.
Did you have agents? Did you have agents seeking you out, offering to represent you?
Oh, they did every once in a while, because I would negotiate with the agents for a producer's deal or something like that. And they said, hey, how about if I represent you? And there really wasn't any reason for me to give an agent 10% when I was doing all that kind of work. So I just had an attorney.
Was Sony Pictures your last production executive deal?
It was the last staff position I had, yes. I worked at Sony and actually got the position because of a gal I worked with at NBC Productions was there now, and so that's how I got the job. So worked at Sony in their long form division. They had many series, but I did not work on the series. I worked on the long form, which are the movies and miniseries, which is really what I enjoyed.
Now you were generating production executive credits in all these pictures.
I was on almost all of them. And side story, because you mentioned the credit, the very first time I got a production executive credit was on a TV movie. And just by coincidence, my dad happened to be in town visiting. He was at the screening. I get misty-eyed.
Oh, okay.
And when my name came up on the screen, he squeezed my knee. I'll never forget it.
Better than words, huh?
Oh boy, yep.
And then he realized that you'd actually been doing something out here 25 years later.
Well, yeah, he still never understood what I did, even as many times as I tried to explain it. But yes, I did get credit.
How did you make the transition from being a production executive, even with credits and really a phenomenal salary and all the good things that come with that hard work? How did you make the transition from the executive ranks to the truly above-the-line producer ranks?
While at Sony, and even at start perhaps before that, I grew tired of the corporate life. I had been in it for over 35 years, and the politics and all the things that go along with the corporate life, I grew tired of it. So I decided to freelance. I decided that having been in the business that long, I knew a tremendous amount of people, and I knew the people that did my job, and those were the kind of people that were going to hire me. It was like a fraternity and sorority of us, so I decided I would take a chance and go freelance.
And how does that happen? Okay, a young guy with some experience in the production area wants to become a producer. What does he do? What's on day one of freelance producing? Do you get out of bed and say, okay, now I'm a producer? I mean, how does it happen?
I was fortunate in while I was at Sony, there was a script that was in development there that I liked quite a bit. And when I left Sony, I kept in touch with people there and knew that this project was getting quite warm. So I talked to the person that had taken my place and talked to my ex-boss and expressed an interest to be involved in it. And so that's how I was able to really do the first project as a freelance producer. It was a project called Ike, Countdown to D-Day, about Dwight Eisenhower.
Starring Tom Selleck.
Starring Tom Selleck. And my Tom Selleck story is he and I, before anybody knew him, we were in a National Guard together. And we protected Burbank, never got invaded.
Was he really cute then, too?
He was terrific. What he was doing then in those days, he was a Marlboro man. Where he
that's
would do
right.
Billboards. And so the story about Tom is there was one, and his wife at that time was a model. So there was one time on Sunset Boulevard, there were billboards that were opposite each other. His was a Marlboro, and I forget what hers were, but they were both on billboards opposite each other, kind of looking at each other. So,
that must have been a thrill for them. So you found the script for Ike Countdown to D-Day laying around, basically, and wanted to be involved in it. Had Selleck been cast at that point? Was there any heat behind it? Any real push?
Lionel Chetwynd, who you must know, was the writer and executive producer on it, along with Stephanie Germain. And so there was heat on it, and it came down to the point where it was if you could get a name for the lead, and Tom's name came up, we will green light it. We shot the project, oddly enough, in Auckland, New Zealand. We were nominated for an Emmy and a Producers Guild of America and a Humanitas Award.
And this was your very first freelance producing gig.
Very first freelance, yes.
You look at that picture. There are a number of producer credits on it.
They were with the broadcaster, and as part of the deal for them to greenlight the film, they said you have to give us screen credit.
Right, but my point is, that's what I'm driving at, is there are a number of producer credits that float around on any project, and there's really only one or two people who actually do anything.
Exactly. Yeah. There's the line producer, which is what I was. Who's the physical production person. And so there's one of those that really works on it. And then there's the Stephanie Germain was on Ike, and she's the one that really developed the project and got it made, along with Lionel Chetwynd. So the three of us really what I would call the hands-on producers on it, despite the credits. But yes, and as you know better than I, in the television world, the producer credits are insane.
They frequently take the place of money, as opposed to really indicate performance level.
Yeah. Yes.
After Ike, where do you go from there? I mean, you're Emmy nominated. You're really at the top of your game as a freelancer. Where do you go from there?
Did another TV movie and actually also shot it in New Zealand. So worked down there quite a bit, both as a production executive when I was staff, and then also as a freelance producer.
So as we kind of come around the home turn here, let me ask you some really quick questions. You don't have to explain your answer. I would just like to know who you think the best actor is you ever worked with.
Well, it depends how you define best. John Ritter was quite special. He was a wonderful actor and a terrific fellow, and did favors for me. So John I will always put as number one. But along the way, I'd worked with Laurence Olivier, who was involved in The Jazz Singer, and Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley. So Ben Kingsley, of course, is a wonderful, wonderful actor.
A lot of people were in shock when John Ritter passed away.
Yes, for sure. Wonderful, wonderful fellow. Yeah.
And tell me, what's your in terms of your production backgrounds, being on sets so much, what's your best day on the set?
The last day of shooting, the last day of production.
When you get to say that's a wrap, huh?
Well, I'm going to say two things. The best day, that is because it's a good feeling. But the other best day is when you're in the screening room, when I'm in a screening room, and I look at the film and I say there's a little bit of me up there on that screen. And there's nothing not a better feeling in the world than that.
Well, that's terrific. So let me ask you this. A lot of young people want to get in the business. your career is the kind of thing that most people will never be able to parallel. But if there were another Dennis Brown coming up, what piece of advice do you have to give him? How do they make it happen?
I've always said that persistence and perseverance often wins out over everything else, and even talent sometimes. If they're persistent and they persevere, they can do it. They can do it, and they can even if they don't have as much talent as the next guy, if they keep at it and they persevere, they have a terrific opportunity.
Okay, I'm 23 years old. I'm just out of college. I have the perseverance of a rhinoceros. What do I do?
You come to Hollywood and you start knocking on doors. You use your alumni connections to the fullest. Every time I got a inquiry from somebody that went to Syracuse, that always went to the top of the pile for me. You use those alumni connections. You use friends of friends. You knock on every door. You get them. You attend seminars that the DGA or the Television Academy or the Motion Picture Academy puts on. If you're an actor, you go to acting classes. You get involved in theater groups. You just have to put yourself out there. And your full-time job has to be looking for a full-time job. And every day you have to do at least one thing that's going to get you to the next step.
Okay, here's the toughest question of all I have for you. One word, the key to your career.
What a good question.
He actually got the question from Barbara Walters, you know.
You know what word? Maybe and I'm not sure it's the right one or a good one, but competitive. I've always been competitive, starting with sports in school, well, even before school.
But I would say the quality that has most propelled you into the ranks you've achieved is integrity. You have never ever been a bullshitter.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your saying that, because that's very, very important to me. So I appreciate your.
Well, I think it's true.
That.
It's an easy thing for me to say, because I've witnessed it for 30 plus years. So having all this background now, what are you up to these days?
There actually is a project pending out there called This Little Light of Mine, which is a TV miniseries. It's a docudrama about Fannie Lou Hamer, who's a civil rights leader from Mississippi, and Alfre Woodard's involved as John Sayles, writer and director.
Oh, that's big time.
And Harry Belafonte and Blue Andre are the producers on it. But my line is, when people ask me what I'm doing, is I work very hard at enjoying life, and I'm quite successful at it.
Not everybody can say that.
Well, Dennis,
No.
this has been terrific. You've taken me back to memories that I haven't thought of in a long time. Your guiding light for others shines brightly.
Well, thank you. It's been a treat for me to talk with you, too, for sure.
Okay, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Dennis. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, it was nice to hear that you and Dennis Brown were pages at, was it NBC?
NBC, right.
And you just missed each other by a year.
Small world.
And you guys were so young.
The fact is, the entertainment business really is small. People really do know each other.
What was also interesting is how he met his wife in the business, Bobby.
Right.
And we met in the business as well. And
I guess that's pretty common, huh?
yeah, and Hollywood marriages were still going strong. We actually know quite a few couples.
So if you're looking for a mate, maybe you should just get in show business, right?
Well, I wouldn't recommend that.
No. Anyway, it was a great interview, and his openness was pretty remarkable. Really enjoyed
Nice
that.
guy.
Before we leave, I want to remind everybody, go to the website at wherehollywoodhides.com and take a look at our book. You'll enjoy it. It's full color, hardcover, the ultimate gift book, the ultimate celebrity souvenir. And on the website, there's a 20% discount offer, or you can go straight to Amazon or your local bookseller. Also, if you have a chance, go to iTunes, give us one of those 5-star reviews or ratings. It really does help get the word out. So until next time, this is Bob McCullough.
And Suzanne.
Bye.
See ya. And today's music is provided by Chance McCullough. You can find more of his original soundtracks at chancemccullough.com. Hey everybody, and if you like these podcasts, please just take a moment to go to iTunes Where Hollywood Hides and give us a 5-star rating. Not a 4, not a 3, but a 5-star rating. And maybe even a couple of review comments like how much you like us. And when you're on FB, that's Facebook for those seniors who are just coming around to logging on, please visit the Where Hollywood Hides page and give us a quick like. It really does help get the word out.